everyone. My name is Apurupa. My pronouns are she, they. I am a queer sex educator, mental health first aider, and I work in the space of women's health. I am also a senior program officer at One Future Collective, which is a youth led organization working in the space of gender, mental health, sexual health, and advocacy. So maybe we could go around the room, share our names, share a little bit about our work and what is it that we do. However, we want to identify, right? Like we have some stellar personalities on this call today. But I mean, unfortunately, I think that my work is the be all and end all of my identity. And I'm trying to challenge that. But feel free to, talk about your favorite food, right? That is just as important as the work that you do. Aarti, can we start with you?
Sure. Um, Hi everyone. I'm terribly bad at bios, but I will do my best. Um, I'm Aarti and I am an Indian, but I live in Singapore. I was born and brought up in Singapore. I'm a first generation Singaporean Indian. My pronouns are they, she. I identify as queer, bisexual, non binary, and I was formerly a mental health therapist for about 10 good years, after which I shifted to a completely different world of plus size fashion blogging for personal reasons, because I had a body positive journey I wanted to join. And a few years after that, I started to delve into activism. I've always felt like there's been an activist in me from a very young age. Um, so I started talking about my queerness and my queer identity for a couple of years now. So I have been doing my activism focused on body positivity, um, queer identities, race relations, because Indians are a minority race in Singapore, and other aspects of my life, such as disability as well. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Aarti. You did a fantastic job for someone who's all like, I don't know if I'm going to be okay at it.
Thank you.
So lies. We also now know that Aarti is a liar. Okay, great. Now that we
What?
established that. Aditya, we'd love to hear from you. If you could talk a little bit about what is it that you do, what is it that you like.
So hi everyone, my name is Aditya and I'm from Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh and I'm 23 years old. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a poet and an activist from Jabalpur, as I just said. And I published my first book of poems in 2019, which is called Is Lush. And through my writing, I explore a variety of themes ranging from politics, color, intersectionality, age, queerness, gender, and revolution. And I also, so with the work that I do, I also try to amplify the voices and the conversations and issues of queer lives outside metro cities. So, yeah, that is what I do.
Thank you, Aditya. That is such important work. It's very easy to sort of believe that the bubble that exists within metros is all that there is to queerness and transness. So it's wonderful. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Purva.
Onir, would you like to go next?
Hi, Apurupa, Aarti, Aditya, and everyone else. This is Onir. Happy Pride Month to all of you. I am a filmmaker working in the Hindi film industry. I identify pronouns are he, him. Out and proud gay filmmaker from the Hindi film industry, born and brought up in Bhutan. And my first film was a film called My Brother Nikhil, which was one of the first mainstream Hindi films with a gay protagonist. And over the years, I have been making different films which deal with queer identity and other films also, and also talk about our rights. So I think that's it.
Nobody wanted to talk about their favorite food or animals that they like or other interests, it's very difficult, no, to identify, to find identity markers beyond work, and to think of them as just as valid as our professional successes. No, great. So I think I'd like to start with a conversation on why we went around saying our pronouns, and what really is the importance of pronouns. Can you not look at a person and sort of more or less gauge what their pronouns could be? Aditya, I'd love to hear from you on this.
Okay, so I think pronouns are very important, and I'm glad that we've started in some way normalizing pronouns. And but I think there's a long way to go with that also. So I think pronouns are important because I might look a certain way, but maybe that is not how I want to be referred as, right? So yeah, I think I may look like a boy, but maybe I want you to refer to me as a woman. Maybe I want you to refer to me as she, her. So I think it is always I think it is always, since we now have so many conversations also about this. I think it is very important to ask the other person what their pronouns are and how they want to be referred as, I think. So yeah, I think I always do that. I personally make sure that I always do that. So yeah.
Right. Very, very well said. Onir, do you think that cisgender folks, peoples whose sex assigned at birth corresponds to their gender identity, also need to talk about their pronouns? Isn't that sort of just for like queer and trans folks?
Honestly speaking, sometimes I am confused about, because even in terms of the pronouns of he, him, I myself, I'm just learning to use it more and more. It's
Mm,
something that, one has just grown up in a world where, it's something that one is getting used to, even for oneself, for
right.
me at least. So sometimes I also find it very difficult to be, to judge, or not judge is the wrong word, to think of what someone else should or
Hmm,
should not do, because, and this is about various things, because though as a person, I think it's, for example, very important to be out and out, not closet, but at the
right.
same time, I understand, but there is this whole thing of almost like celebrating that, you
Hmm,
know why make such a big deal about coming out, and
hmm,
straight people don't have to come out, and I'm like, but straight people are not closet, everything is out there.
hmm,
So these are things that also I'm learning,
hmm, hmm,
and this is perhaps the first time, I've changed my uh, social in social network, wherever I have my identity, I've started putting he, him, but
right.
this is for the first time, like, I'm talking about it. So for me, it's also learning to understand the importance, and while listening to Aditya, that was also a part of learning.
Hmm. No, Onir, thank you for being so honest about this, right? Because folks expect that just because you hail from the community, and like, firstly, LGBTQIA plus is, an acronym that sort of represents marginalized identities, but like the homogenizing of the entire community. And to say that everybody has the same experiences, or everybody must have absolute knowledge about everything that has to do with the community is also unfair. Aarti, I know that you talk a lot about within your activism. You talk a lot about representation. You talk a lot about language. You talk a lot about and at the intersections of race, bodies, different types of bodies. So, what is your tuppence on this? How important is representation and language?
I feel like I'm on the cusp between what Aditya said and what Onir said, because similarly, like Onir, while growing up, we did not really have to speak about our pronouns because it was not something that was actively done at that time. But um, I think I see it as a mark of respect, and just helping us identify ourselves. I know that asking some people can be offensive. So I really tread on eggshells. I'm very, very careful. Um, if they are comfortable with telling what their pronouns are, great. Because nobody is that far out there, maybe, you know, and they might not want to tell their pronouns, and I respect that as well. So usually I'll introduce myself first, and then I'll introduce myself with my pronouns, and so that gives them the opportunity to introduce themselves with their pronouns if they would like, or without if they are not comfortable. um, it it honestly isn't as complicated as we make it out to be. It's just like, it's changing with the times, and so we're going to have to experience these different things that are going to come about in the communities. I feel, honestly, it is, something that we've always done. We have always had pronouns. We have always regarded ourselves as she, her, he, him, they, them. It's just that the context is a little different now, and sometimes a little hard for some to understand, especially straight people. But I feel like when people have made the decision to change their identities and change their pronouns, it definitely should be, you know, um, respected. And when people have made it really abundantly clear what their pronouns are, it doesn't harm anyone to show respect to their pronouns.
Thank you so much for equating respecting pronouns with, respecting someone's personhood.
Mm,
And, just like you wouldn't assume someone's name, like you wouldn't look at me and go like, hey, you look like such a Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
You would ask me
exactly.
what my name is. So, yeah, Aditya, would you like to add to
Yeah,
this?
I would actually like to add what Aarti said and what you guys were having a conversation about earlier, that, one always expects us, since we're from the community, to know everything. And
Yes.
I think, that's not always the case. Even
Yep.
it's a learning process for all of us, right? At the end of the
Exactly.
day, because 4 years ago, even we didn't know that we have to, use pronouns in our conversations. And I think it is also very important for us to understand now that, people often, assume ki acha, this person is he him. Obviously he looks like a he him, so they are he him only. But I think this is something that I also talk about a lot, is that just because I want to be referred to as he him now doesn't mean that I want to be referred to as he him 10 years from now also. I can be she her, I can be they them, I can be he she or he they. It could just be anything. So I think it is very important to talk about it, and for people to respect how I want to be referred to as, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Ritushree, so glad that you were able to finally join us. And I know that, sometimes internet gods are just not in our favor. But Ritushree, can you hear us? Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you
Hi.
hear?
Wonderful. So, Ritushree, we're basically talking about pronouns. But before we get to that, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Okay, so first of all, I'm extremely sorry for my internet connection. It's raining here and it's too bad. And secondly, I didn't know how to join and anything. So yeah. So hi, my name is Ritushree. I'm from Ahmedabad. I'm a transgender woman and my pronouns are she, her. And I'm a lawyer and a DNI practitioner and a LGBTQIA right activist. And so, thank you for including me in this panel of such great people. I don't know what I will say, but yeah, people were talking about pronouns. And for me, it's very important when it comes to pronouns, because when you use your pronouns, people get to know what they should, address you with.
Mm-hmm.
This happened with queer people. Like they people make jokes about, like,
Yeah.
what should we call you? Are you me? Are you a he? You are a she? So first of all, for me, my pronouns in my every bio and my every social media profile, my pronouns is there. Okay, see, this is me. You have to address to me like this.
Very, very well said, Ritushree, and thank you so much, for sharing that with us. I think, yeah, again, important to remember that all queer and trans folks, and of course, I'm using queer as an umbrella term to represent all sexual identities. But yeah, we're all not the same. We all are an amalgamation of all the different identities that we embody, our class location, our caste location, like I was saying, our favorite dog, our favorite food, nobody wants to talk about it, but I insist that that is a very important part of our identity as well. Yes, Aditya.
I was just laughing on what you said.
Aarti, did you want to add to this?
I mean, I'll be more than happy to tell you what my favorite food is
Tell
and
me,
my
tell me,
favorite dog is.
tell me your favorite food.
My favorite food
Example.
is a local dish called mee goreng.
Ah,
It
yeah.
it is Indian Muslim, and because we have a very big Indian Muslim community
Mhm.
here, and it's just fried, really thin fried noodles with sunny side up eggs and little
Mm.
pieces of mutton, and it's just the most delicious thing.
Oh my God.
And I
Yeah.
love animals. I have pets, so
Oh my God. Yeah. Can we actually go around like taking up space and talking about, things about us that don't have to do with just our queerness or our
yes,
trans,
please.
right? Because I mean, we're
Yes.
individuals beyond. Of course, this is an important part of
We're
our
so
identity.
many things. Yeah,
But
we're
yeah,
so
I
many
mean,
things.
tell me about like you. Yeah, tell me like what are some of your favorite things? Uh,
Well, I do a lot of things. I mean, as of now, since I'm at home, and I mean, I can't do a lot of things, but I love meeting my friends. I love going out, and I'm not like a wild child. I would say that I don't like to party a lot, but I'm the kind of person who would, want to have a lot of conversations with you.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, deep intellectual conversations. So I'm that sort of a person. Plus, I'm a big foodie, so I love everything, to be honest. Yeah, and so yeah, I watch television shows. I consume a lot of Netflix. I read a lot, and yeah, that is what I do. And I mean, recently I've started spending a lot more time with myself because I've
mm-hmm,
always been a very people-oriented person. But
mm-hmm.
I've realized that spending time with yourself can be very liberating. So I've started doing that recently.
Yeah. So you're a hipster basically.
No, but no, but I mean, I think I'm just a creative person who likes to do what I want to do. So yeah.
These creative types, I tell you. Speaking about creative types, Onir, tell us a little bit about you beyond your gender identity and your sexual identity,
Uh,
your
I am
activism.
wanderlust. Right now, I'm at this very, very remote place called Gurez, which is
I saw it in the stories.
Onir, we're
like the
losing
Honor, we
you.
can't hear
in
you.
Jammu and Kashmir, and
Okay,
it's
back.
like the border is like you can see the post there. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Now
I
we.
yeah,
love
we can hear
traveling,
you
so I'm
now.
like constantly traveling whenever I can, wherever with work.
That's fantastic. Yeah, wanderlust. Is it really wanderlust, Onir, or are you just like doing recce for your movies? All right, I guess Onir's going to be back whenever he can.
No, I think
Uh,
there's a connection issue. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Ritushree, please tell me more about you. So I also used to be a lawyer. I don't do that with my life anymore. So like, a lot of respect for you for going through. It is not an easy life to be a lawyer, and yeah, tell me more about you beyond your work, please.
Your work is okay. Beyond the work, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm a normal person. Like, I love, food. I love food. I love eating any kind of food. Like, I love experimenting. Like, whenever, a different kind of food, I love to taste them. I love to go out, malls and everywhere, because that whenever someone asks me what do you really like to do, I say I love to go to malls because being a trans person for
Yeah.
90% of my life, I never get that, when there as a woman. So whenever I get a chance, so I started going out since last 2 years. So yeah, I never miss a chance of going out and flaunting who I am. And besides that, I love reading. I don't read much, but yeah, I love reading. I love watching Netflix, and I love watching stand-up comedy a lot. I'm a follower of stand-up comedy, and I do sometimes also open mics.
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
fancy. See, I told you, like we're so much more than yeah. So get to know us, and if you're trying to have a conversation with us, and you're going to just reduce us to maybe one part of our identity, that part may not even make it to like our top 10 identity markers, right? Like I identify as sexy babe forever before so as a
I think I'm in the same team.
right, right. So I think when you're having a discourse around what it's like to experience the world, what is the importance of representation and language, how does law impact us, what is our mental health like, and if you're not going to view us as whole human beings, with all these different identity markers, all these different expressions and interests and desires, then you're not really going to get to know us. And you're not really going to be able to practice allyship properly. So, hey, like, we're so much more than what
Yeah, and yeah, and we're not special. We're just like everyone else, and we
I mean, I
only
think
want to be treated
I'm
just like
I'm
everyone else.
sorry. I'm so sorry,
Hmm.
Aditya, but I'm very special.
No,
Okay.
I mean we're all special in our own ways, but I'm saying
I
that
just like, yeah.
yeah, but I'm saying that we do not want special treatment or anything. It's like treat us like anybody else, hang out with us, get to know us. It's like that.
Also, give us basic human rights and
Yes,
opportunities.
yes,
I mean, that would be great
opportunities.
too. Yes. Onir, you're back. Can you hear us? Okay, fine. Onir will respond when he can, no pressure. So now that we're having this conversation about identity beyond our queerness and transness, I'd like to talk a little bit about how maybe COVID has impacted us. Um, I'm not sure if COVID is over yet. Really, I think the after effects. I mean, there's suspecting a third wave. So I'm going to say we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and I'd love to go around the room and maybe talk a little bit about how it impacted our mental health. Especially because a lot of us did rely on our chosen family, right, and communities. Like, Ritushree speaks about being able to go out and flaunt her identity and really be herself. And Aditya said he's a very very people's person as well. So I mean, same for me, right? Like, what did this loss of safe spaces, external safe spaces, and chosen access to chosen families mean to us? Maybe we could start with Aarti.
Okay, sure. I am the complete opposite of all of you. I am an introvert. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to say that losing these safe spaces and losing these spaces that give me comfort. I mean, home, thankfully, I have the privilege now that I'm married and I'm living on my own to have a safe space. But I did lose safe spaces. And I thought it would be easy for me as an introvert. I thought it was going to be easy peasy. I was not going to stress about this. It's just another day at home. I'll be fine. But it did get to me. And it I could see it really, really impacting the community here. And so we are still in sort of like a you know little bit of a lockdown, and it's slowly beginning to open up again, but you just never know because we're still in a pandemic. Personally, um I think during the times that we've had lockdowns, I have struggled with depression because I do live with depression. So I've had depressive episodes, and so that's been uh challenging to handle. and not being able to physically meet the people that I can, you know, talk this out with, but
Mm.
then having to FaceTime or talk on the phone. I mean, it was still good, that we could FaceTime and talk on the phone, but it just didn't feel the same.
Mm.
So, and at the same time having to advocate, because that people are out there struggling just like you, and
Yeah.
even more so than you, because not everybody feels safe in their homes.
Mm.
So like making sure I would share the links, the resources, and I would speak to people on a regular basis. So yeah, it's been it's been an interesting time, I will tell you that. And life goes on and personal things happen. There were deaths in the family and all of that.
Mm.
So yeah, it's been challenging for sure.
Mm.
And so I've had to be gentle with myself and be kind to myself, and not like work myself like a workhorse for the sake of it. Like, I think in the beginning I was throwing myself into work
Mm.
because I thought that would be the way for me to deal with things. But I think the depression got to the better of me, and I actually ended up taking a 3-month break from my work last year because it just got too much.
Mm.
um so similarly this year, um during this mini lockdown that we've had, again had a depressive episode. And so I'm just, you know going with the flow and just hoping that, as things ease up, that um I will feel better as well.
No, thank you for being so vulnerable with us, Aarti.
Sending my love to you, Aarti.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it means, when people open up about the way they're struggling, especially folks in the public eye, I think it fosters a safe space for other people to acknowledge, if not speak up, right? At least acknowledge that they're not okay. So thank you so much for, always using your platform, Aarti, to do that.
Thank
Not
you
that you
so much.
need to. I don't want to, glorify that. Please take as many breaks as you need, as many breaks as you can, right? But I still feel like there's so much power in you being so vulnerable with us. And at the, I mean, it's not like when you speak about your identity or when you speak about your mental illness, it's always, yes, there are people who support you. Aditya immediately went more love to you, and I'm sure like the folks listening in also felt like they resonated. But there are also people who make fun of it, and
Yes.
is not always
Yes, it's not
right,
cool. Hmm.
right.
Yes.
So yeah, Aditya, if you could share a bit about what it's like for you, because I know that you also are quite open about various facets of your identity. Can the internet truly be a safe space? How do you cope with these brickbats that come your way?
So I just experienced something last night, in fact, on Clubhouse itself. But I personally think that internet is like a double-edged sword. It can be both liberating and daunting at the same time, because now, because everybody has access to you on the internet.
Right,
People don't know your address, right? But everybody can reach out to you on the internet.
right.
So and it's sad because everybody, I think the whole world wants us to be the best versions of ourselves all the time. They expect us to always do better.
Hmm.
And the point is, appreciation is very sometimes very difficult to get on the internet, and I think people shouldn't even expect to be appreciated online, because it also should come from within, right? So for me personally, this whole pandemic has been a whirlwind. because I was actually intending to go out for my master's last year, which I couldn't, I couldn't go because of the pandemic. And for example, in Jabalpur, we don't have a lot of queer spaces. Like Jabalpur is not a very, very developed city, right? So we don't have queer resources here. We barely have any safe queer spaces, right? So we only had this one place, which obviously due to the pandemic was taken away from us. And queer lives, in a way, in small towns are not visible enough for anyone to take notice, so nobody actually knows what our stories look like. And so yeah, it was very difficult. And I in the beginning, I had two major publications and they were doing stories on me, and I was very happy. It was literally like I had made it. But then because of the pandemic and everything, it all just came crashing down, and it was very sad for me. And I remember last year June, Pride month, I felt very depressed. And I felt like I'm not wanted, I'm not celebrated in this world, as a queer individual. Because I used to see queer voices only from the urban cities being celebrated. And I was like, just because. And I cannot go there because of the pandemic, right? And since I came out at a very young age, I was 13, and I've been doing everything that I can from then to now. So it somewhere sort of broke me, last year. And then I decided that I'm not going to wait to be seen, right? So I just took the ownership of it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do what I have to do. And then I started reaching out to people here in smaller cities, in Jabalpur, in Indore, in Raipur. And I started writing about it. I started amplifying their stories. For example, we don't know if a queer individual is being beaten in a city. Like, last week, I heard from a common friend that an individual was arrested and he was taken to the police station because he was gay. And for example, I even did a story last year on a 22-year-old girl who lives right in my neighborhood only, and her parents had taken her for a shock therapy in Jabalpur, and they were forcing her to get married to a man. So I even did her story. So then it somewhere, along the way, it liberated me. It gave me a sense of doing something more than me. And then yeah, and that is how I found my way back to loving myself, because I was like, life is more than just a story not coming my way, or somebody on the internet not appreciating my existence. I am
Right.
much more than all of these little things in life, and there are bigger things. So yeah, that is how I found myself this year. So yeah, it's been a
True.
whirlwind for me.
Sending you so much love, Aditya.
Yeah. Oh
Thank
my.
you, Aarti.
Oh, yeah. And like, I mean, what you're saying is essentially, I don't know, like 10 lifetimes. This can be a whole like movie in itself. Like each
I
each
know.
um
I've lived many lives, but yeah,
I mean,
that is what we as queer and trans individuals do, right? We live many
yeah,
lives,
yeah,
and most of the times to avoid humiliation,
yeah,
prejudice, we
yeah.
go through a lot. And especially, folks in smaller towns who don't have resources, access to people, to organizations, opportunities. And it might sound very startling, but there's a huge community, and even in Jabalpur, for a matter of fact. But then people are not out, people are afraid, people don't have knowledge, people don't have anything here. And they're
Right,
like, what if, even if we come out, what are we going to get? We're not
right,
getting anything, we're not being celebrated, right?
right, right, right.
So so yeah, it's been very daunting for me also personally to meet everybody, to talk, to listen to their stories. It's been very overwhelming. But yeah, I mean, I love doing it. At the end of the day, that is what I really want to do. So yeah.
Right. I mean, Aditya, truly incredible. I mean, also, like, you're so much younger than I am. I'm just realizing. And so much more accomplished. I'm so jealous. You are cancelled, Aditya, for being like so wonderful. Um, and just, yeah, really caring about your community and really wanting to amplify voices and use your platform to do so. And not just do it during Pride Month, right? Doing it throughout the year.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I think that is very important for people to
Yeah.
understand. As you just said that you're a Bombay girl and you celebrate Pride in Jan and Feb, and
Mhm.
and June is a Western concept. For me personally, I think pride is every day for us, because
Eh,
especially for us as being queer and trans, that is a political proclamation in itself,
Yes,
which has
absolutely.
its which has its both fair share of glory and pain. So we
Uh,
all deserve to be celebrated all year long, in my opinion.
ah, I really was not this mature when I was, I was
I
a
know.
neglected child.
Oh
Like
Jesus,
the
I'm
growth has.
23 by the way.
Uh, yeah, Ritushree, I mean, can I say that you're from a small town? Would you consider Ahmedabad a small town compared?
Actually, I'm not actually from Ahmedabad. I've been working here, so I stay here. So
Mm-hmm.
I am from a very small town. So, and growing up, it was, while I growing up, there was no internet, internet was not that, yeah. So, it was very difficult for me. So, then I decided ki I have to move to a bigger city, and then I landed up here in Ahmedabad to know myself. And now I'm trying to get out from here to, like Bombay, Delhi, or Bangalore, some places where it is more queer friendly. But taking forward this discussion on mental health during COVID and internet as a safe space, it will be a bit longer in two part my answer. It will be okay.
Yes, please take up
Yes,
all
please take up
you want.
all you want. Okay, so uh, I I'm not sure about my gender, but still this societal pressure and all that, I was never out and out in public. I started I went into depression and I started consulting. And my therapist, she helped me a lot in coming out. And she actually helped me in, give me courage to go out in public. So I started going out in, Delhi, Bombay, and all that, pride parades and clubs. So it all started in 2019. And when I was, like, yeah, I have finally found my way, COVID happened. And I couldn't go anywhere. I was stuck in a room. And the moment I was deciding, ki, yes, to tell the world, see, this is I am, I was forced to live in closed doors. So it too was traumatic. I went to further depression. But thanks to my therapist, she was always there. And during that time, I thought about my, I gave a very long thought about myself. And I came out to my family. I told them, I'm not living with them because I didn't want to, not because they don't love me and all that, but I just wanted my freedom. So I told them, actually, I told my sister first that I'm not, a straight male. And she was like, okay, are you gay? And I said, no, I'm not gay. So she said, what are you then? And I said, I will tell you, it will take a couple of months. And then uh, after 2 months, I revealed her my identity, and she was okay. She supported me, and she told the family and everyone was like, okay, if um, she is earning, she is independent, let her be happy. So this lockdown has done one thing that it gave me courage. It really threw me to the depression where I was like, I have to get back my life, and that gave me the courage to come out to my family. That's part one. But the thing is, about safe spaces where you can be yourself, uh, that was a bit depressing. So after this lockdown opened in Jan and Feb, I went to Bombay and I have a friend there, Lakshmi. She is a mental health practitioner and L&D, practitioner. So I used to go to her house to, have a lunch and everything. So I told her one day that I want to go to a mall, and because till now I have always gone to places, restaurant, pub, where for only quiet people. I
Hmm.
want I want to go to a place where I will be the only quiet person, And then she said, okay, let's do it. And we went to the mall, and I still remember, standing in front of the mall entry, I was shivering, like whether they will allow me or not. People don't understand, normal people, no, no, heterosexual people, they do not understand this thing you would say or something, of rejection. I was like, whether they will allow me or not, whether they will, allow me to use their female
Hmm.
washroom or not, whether they will allow me. But she was there with me and she said, okay, let's go. We went there. It was amazing. I was literally crying. And yeah, and then I started going, okay, it's okay. I crossed the first barrier. So this happened with me during lockdown. And talking about safe spaces on internet, 99% of queer persons, for them, internet is the safest place where they can be themselves. Because, not everyone is out. And talking about from my perspective, when I started therapy, I, created my social media accounts, and on Twitter especially. People say Twitter is a very, bad, triggering space. But I found friends, family. Gaurav was my best friend. If you know Gaurav Pramanik, they
Hmm.
gave me courage to, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I heard
he,
about him. I heard about his demise.
he
I'm
was
so sorry for your loss.
he was such a, supportive figure for me. And then, I met so many friends whom I can call my family now, who helped me. I met all of them online. Before that, I was, you know, worried to, what would people say if I put something or the other. But they helped me a lot. They gave me the courage. And now they gave me so courage that I post my figure and post my videos. I go to, seminars. I'm writing articles as me, my family knows. All this happened only because of internet. And see, there is no compulsion on anyone to come out as their sexual or gender identity. But internet give them the space where they can be themselves. But lately, what is happening on internet, like that Rishikesh Rao story where they, uh, they were trolled for posting fundraiser post for their transition, or what happened during the, last week with that hashtag of why so proud, people hounding queer people. That is problematic. And another thing is, as I said, that it is the most safest space for queer people. The biggest problem is none of the social media account has any filter to, report any queerphobic account where people,
Yeah.
trolling you and abusing you. You cannot do that, and that is the problem, I think.
Absolutely, Ritushree. Also, like, thank you so so much. I know, like, I keep thanking all of you for sharing your experiences, but it's so important for us to do that. And I mean, before we lose Onir, I want him to quickly jump
Yes.
and maybe talk a little bit about. So, Onir, we're talking about safe spaces,
Yeah. First of
mental
all,
health,
really
COVID, and internet. Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, no worries. Please go ahead.
Yeah, really sorry because I'm in this really remote place called Gurez. I was just talking about how much I love traveling,
You can stop
and
bragging now, Onir.
unfortunately, I was
You
told
are in a fancy, beautiful, with
it's
the nature place. We're stuck in this
yeah.
concrete jungle. Stop bragging.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, but apparent. And what is sad here is this place has this power station which is called Kishan Ganga, which is like huge, but this place gets 4 hours electricity every day, and that's the reason why all this issues. So it's one of those sad facts about a lot of places in Kashmir that it produces a lot of electricity, but it's not available to people out here. So anyway, yeah, so anything, because I missed so much of the conversation which I'm sure must have been amazing. So, anything that you want me to talk about, because I'm lost.
Yeah, Onir, absolutely. So we're currently talking about how the mental health has impacted us. Maybe if you could also talk about some unique stressors that you might have had as an out and proud gay man, and how has the internet been a safe space or not been a safe space for you?
Actually, for me, internet has been in a way mostly a great space because, like I mentioned before, when I'm born and brought up in Bhutan, and my entire childhood, education years, there were no reference points. I was not there in my history. I was there not there in films and advertisement and biology. So I didn't exist. I didn't know the word gay till I was in class 12 when I came to India. So my identity was absence. And, slowly after coming to Kolkata when I was in university there, luckily in Jadavpur University where I was doing comparative literature, professors were discussing, you know, uh, sexuality, gender, and in a very, very respectful way. And I feel extremely fortunate that I had that education. And
Hmm.
later, when I came to Bombay, I remember in '95 is when the internet started, and suddenly there was this new world of rooms where I found I created another identity for myself. And every day, after office hours from 10 o'clock, I would be in these rooms. I've found
Hmm.
some of my best friends there, have got mugged at times, meeting the wrong
Yeah.
people. But
Yeah.
I don't regret anything because I've found more beauty. I've learned, I've found great friends, I've had all kinds of rendezvous, and that continues. Now there are more and more opportunities. Of course, there are always creeps hanging around, but after a point, you learn how to deal with it. One never stopped because I remember when we used to go to voodoos, there would be possibility of police raid any day, and there were, and we would go out from the back door, but nothing stopped us. So I think the threat of what happens when you have the wrong person on these spaces, I would like to believe that will not stop one from trying to still discover the beauty of one's identity.
Right, right.
Very well said.
Yeah, very, very well said. And I think like all of us are essentially talking about, you know, us resisting despite, whatever we might have faced, whether in physical or online spaces, and us saying that I'm still going to claim this space, I'm still going to be myself as much as possible, and take it or leave it, right? It's resistance, and I wouldn't romanticize necessarily the ill experiences that we've had to go through, because uh, the truth of the matter is, yes, everybody, including cishet people, have these encounters with people who are not necessarily safe. But the frequency and the amount of risk and danger that some of us have to embody, especially like when we hail from certain bodies, when we present a certain way, we are susceptible to more violence. And yeah, but like the fact that all of us despite this are saying that I'm going to not, and I won't let this stop me, and I'm going to find ways in which I can express myself and be my authentic self. So let's talk about a
You
little bit
know,
of,
I
yeah,
wanted to add something to
yes,
it.
yes, please.
Actually, I 100% resonated with what Onir said because I have personally witnessed and endured a lot of things. As I just said that we only had one queer space in our small city. So and we used to go there, and there were obviously raids and police raids, and
Mhm.
all sorts of criminals used to come there, all the gundas would be there,
Yeah,
and all these things would happen. People would get mugged, people would get beaten, people would get
yeah,
interrogated, and police brutality was a major thing. So but it didn't stop any of us to go to that place. And you know, that is how it is. You know, we as queer and trans people, we have to really come out and claim our spaces, you know. And the more we go out and claim our spaces, the more we are making it safe for other queer and trans individuals who are afraid to do that. So yeah.
I also wonder, Aditya, of course, thank you so much for sharing that. But I'd love to, hear from Aarti and Ritushree as well. As femme presenting people, right? Is it different? Is the experience different? And, like, does such a thing as male privilege and mask privilege exist within the queer and trans world as well? Aarti, would you like to take this?
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for India or the rest of the world, but I think in Singapore we do see a fair bit of masculine privilege in the queer community. And it's primarily the Chinese gay men who are on the forefront and who are visibly representing. Well, okay, to give some context to what Singapore is like in terms of the queer community, we are a very cosmopolitan looking country, but we have very backward notions. um, Homophobia, transphobia is a very, very big issue here. It's a very big issue here. Safe spaces here are limited because we have still not decriminalized homosexuality. We have not repealed Section 377A.
Right.
And this is something that we have been fighting for a very, very long time, and every year we fight for it. And every year in Pride Month in June, we have this event called Pink Dot, that is an event that was started 13 years ago to talk about repealing 377A. But the government insists that the queer community is not discriminated against and it is not targeted. And they are so wrong on that, because even though Singapore is known as a safe country in terms of crimes, um, we have to think about what safe really looks like. And safety is, in our bodies and in our homes and in the relationships that we have, the strangers that we meet. I actually always, as a child, always presented as more male than female. um I was a Pakka tomboy, and I called myself in male pronouns, and my parents were absolutely fine with it, and they called me beta, and they still do. And but of course that changed when puberty came around, and my body started changing, and also I have my eating disorder history, so I had this whole 2 decades of like struggling with my weight. And so it is an interesting space, because just like there is the concept of no fats, no femmes, no Asians in the West, the concept here in Singapore is no fats, no femmes, no Indians. There is a big problem with colorism in Singapore, and so identifying as a femme non-binary really confuses people, really throws people off, because because I consider myself gender fluid. So there are days I present as more feminine, and there are days that I don't. And it throws people off for the loop. I think for in most cases, femmes here probably get away with more because they are more cis presenting.
Right.
Yeah, whereas the masculine presenting women, or people who identify as women, or our trans male friends who are transitioning, in the midst of transitioning, or have made the transition, they get a lot of hate for it. So yeah, that's how it looks like for me.
Yeah, Aarti, I really relate to what you're saying because for me to even access queer spaces right now, I can. Now I'm a grown ass woman. one can tell me what, I mean, my parents still tell me what to do, but growing up, right, it wasn't like I was allowed to be like allowed, right, to go
Right.
outside after a certain point
Yeah,
during the
same
day.
here.
Yeah, it's not like I was allowed to wear certain kinds of clothes.
Yep.
And so it is different, but I mean, I fully relate with you, Aarti, when you say that when you're cis presenting. Um, yeah, like it is when you're passing, although that is violent, that someone refuses to acknowledge your identity. That's essentially what passing means, right?
Yeah.
That they're invisibilizing you. They're like, I don't see you. I
Mm-hmm.
will project what I think of you onto you, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so when people, like, I'm very out and proud bisexual woman, and but I have largely been in relationships with men. I mean, that's a fact. um,
Yep.
so when folks say that, oh, but like, you're not like gay, right? What you're saying is you don't see me for who I am. Ritushree, how is it for you? How is like this access to spaces for you? I know that you said you spoke of your experiences of like going to a mall during the pandemic and how affirming that was for you, and having a friend with you just meant the world to you, who was like with you and saying that, hey, we got this, we're in this together. But I'd love to hear more from you. How was it when you started to present more feminine? How was it received? If you'd be comfortable talking about that.
Well, it's a bit complicated because we are talking about safe spaces, and we are talking about like I don't know how to put it. Okay, so when I started going out, I choose to go out to places which are primarily for queer people, like queer establishment, like hotels or pub or parties. But I have seen this thing that somehow, as your question was, somehow the square fraternity is mainly dominated by cisgender gay persons. And I'm not, judging anything against anyone. I have so many cisgender gay persons as my
Same.
friend. They're beautiful
Love
people.
my
They
cis
help
gay.
me coming out. But somehow, you feel, as a trans woman, I feel a bit discriminated uh, in even in those
Hmm,
spaces.
hmm. Yeah, thank.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, Ritushri. And the reason why I wanted to bring this is again to sort of emphasize on how. Ritushri, would you mind putting yourself on mute? Sorry. Yeah. No, I just essentially wanted to emphasize on how, like, even within the community, our experiences are so different. Onir, can you talk a little bit about what needs to be done now? We've spoken about the various ways in which, we might be struggling, the various ways in which we have resisted, and the various ways in which, I mean, our resilience pieces we've all spoken about. But if you could think about queer futures and tell me what else needs to be done.
One of the things that, of course, I can speak about is my industry, my work, because, there is just otherwise so much to be done that you don't know what to, where to start. And I feel that especially how to use cinema as a medium, because I feel it's such a powerful medium of,
Mm-hmm.
how you are setting up mindsets. And it's been like the how for example how women are perceived in this country very often is influenced by how the whole item number concept, and how if
Correct.
teasing is the way to impress, and finally she'd say yes even if you molest her. That's the so I feel that it's so important, and a lot of us have started talking about it, is that just like it took years and years to finally accept that the feminine gauge is different from the male gauge, and it's important to have women telling their stories. So it's very, very important to have us tell our stories, to empower people from the queer community to tell us stories, and not only stories at various levels, because right from just stories for children, because this whole thing of anything queer being adult is weird. We were children once upon a time. So if I make a film where there are two men kissing, immediately the film certification board will say that, oh, but this
Correct,
is adult. But a man
correct.
and a woman kissing is no longer adult.
Right.
So I feel there is so much of these things that need to change, and it'll only change when more of us are out there and claiming
Mhm,
our space, telling
mhm,
our stories. Because
mhm.
very often the stories that are told right now is what makes, what the heteronormative world is comfortable with. So
Correct.
they want to tell the stories they are okay hearing. That now, just like now everyone wants to talk about inclusion now, but to an extent that they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
you know it is it is almost like listening to what they want to listen, see what they want to see,
Mhm.
and then okay itna to kar dete hain inke liye, especially Pride Month. you know so I feel that it is an immense task, but we have to keep on, you know claiming those spaces, taking those
Mhm.
spaces, or not
Yeah.
being, not being grateful that okay, we are doing you a favor by, you know giving you this.
Right, right, right. I mean, it's not giving anybody anything, like you very rightly said on it. It's reparations at this point, right? Like the historical wrongs must now be corrected. And absolutely with you when you say that storytelling and stories are just so powerful, which is what, hey, the Citizen is trying to do as well, through the stories that they tell of folks from the margins. Aditya, what according to you would a queer world, a queer future look like?
So see, I think as of now, the queer movement and queer culture in general is across the length and breadth of this country, and I think it's not just in South Bombay anymore. That is something that we all need to
Ouch! I feel
acknowledge.
really called out. Excuse me.
No, I no, I'm not calling out anybody, but I but I'm just saying that
Shame.
it's everywhere, right? It is everywhere now, and I think, in my opinion, it will become more mainstream, and in turn, I think society will become more accepting and less heteronormative. But for this, I think a major shift within the community is necessary, as you guys were just talking about, where I think exclusivity and elite attitude and hypocrisy are to be left behind. And I think the idea of who is queer in India, I think, cannot be limited to those who speak English or live in cities and have an urban lifestyle. So I think, yeah, because I think these things are far away from the truth, and I think queer culture is on the rise, and yeah, queerness should not be bound by geography. I think it's
Wow.
everywhere. So yeah.
Yes, yes, 100%. Aditya, resonate with you.
But yeah, I
Um,
think we need to. Okay, it does. Okay, so but I strongly feel that I mean, so in my opinion, this can be the future, but I think we need to do a lot of work even within the community as to
oh,
creating
oh,
more opportunities and yeah,
fast,
more community building platforms and stuff, and give people the chance to come forward and tell their own stories, as Onir just said,
right,
where they can no longer be misquoted by anyone. So yeah.
right, right. No, Aditya, thank you for also bringing up the issues within the community as well. Like we have so much internalized transphobia and biphobia that it's not even funny.
Hmm. Yes,
Um,
yes,
and
and femphobia also.
absolutely, absolutely. Like I'm just talking from my location.
Yeah.
क्योंकि सबको अपना ही oppression दिखता है. But so no, Aditya, very very true that even within the community there are folks with privilege and passing the mic. We can't have the same 4 5 people constantly being represented in media because they're
Hmm.
thin, white, Savarna, English speaking from a metro. Fully agree.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, and I mean, I'm also trying to bring in this conversation, and I'm glad that the Citizen organized this because
Jabalpur
uh,
Pride.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm, personally for me, when you asked me how this whole pandemic has been for me, and it's been quite sad for me in a sense with my work also, because I wrote a book, but so it's a poetry book, and poetry people think that is dead, and when
Yeah,
the word queer is attached to it, people are like, it cannot be resurrected now,
yeah.
so it's been a very difficult journey, because I have a book ready for publication and I don't know how to get it published. And I'm sure, I mean, obviously this year we're not going to get it published, but I'm still
Mm,
trying every single day, to push for the book to get out. So yeah, I
mm.
hope something will happen.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yes, yes, Onir, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel
yes,
that,
on it.
this is something that is so prevalent. Like, right
Mm,
now, one hears that, okay, OTT platforms everywhere they want, and
correct.
every time, I approach, I'm constantly told, yes, we want, but maybe what you're suggesting has too much of it, and
Mm,
the audience is not yet ready, you know
ready.
and then I
Hmm.
see that, like, for example, one of the things which is very popular is the way a heteronormative society wants to see lesbian couples. So
Mm,
suddenly you will see lesbian relationships much more
Hmm.
in OTT platforms, mostly in a very, very problematic way,
yeah.
you know
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
this refusal, like, just like, be it poetry, be it cinema. Like, for example, right now, the film I'm trying to make, for which I'm here, and one of the most difficult part
I
will
knew
be.
it, Onir. I said you're there for me.
Yeah, you already said
Yeah,
it.
I'm
Of
actually
this.
on Reiki, so
I should
it
have
is
put money on. Yeah.
yeah. So the what
Yeah.
is really, like, I'm trying to make this one of the stories of
Mm,
this
mm,
uh, uh, film that I'm doing is a love story between an army person and a local Kashmiri guy, and it is extremely, like, I can already, when I mention the word LGBT, I can feel the tension when I'm in the army space, especially,
Hmm.
you know and I thought that I have to risk it. I have to speak about this, because they have still said that they will not accept the Supreme Court verdict, and I
mm,
feel that this is where we have to keep looking at all the spaces which are refusing to give us
yeah.
our rights, even after such a long fight we have had, and
Yeah.
claim it. I mean, they can't do this to us.
How I think Aarti just said, I think थोड़ी देर पहले कि and how Onir is now saying, कि I think लोग वही दिखा रहे हैं और सुना रहे हैं, I think most of the times जो उनको देखना सुनना है, and they're not literally, क्योंकि प्राइड मंथ के भी नाम पे, I know a lot of brands, वो अपने शायद एरिया में 5 ट्रांस वर्कर्स को भी नहीं जानते होंगे,
Mm,
और वो सी एवरीबडी कैन सिट इन देयर ऑफिस स्पेसेस, बिग कॉर्पोरेट्स में दे कैन सिट इन देयर एयर कंडीशनिंग एंड चांट स्लोगन्स फॉर गे लिबरेशन, बट
mm,
लिटरली करना बहुत डिफरेंट होता है लिप सर्विस करने से। तो मेरा पर्सनल भी कहना है कि लिप सर्विस मत करो, आप अपॉर्चुनिटीज दो ना, हमको काम दो।
mm,
एंड the thing is that जो everybody keeps sitting, all these brands companies साल भर तो ये these people don't do anything for us, ठीक है।
mm, mm.
प्राइड मंथ में सब अपनी ग्रेव से बाहर आ जाते हैं सडनली, एंड दे चांट स्लोगन्स, बट मेरा कहना है पीपल नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि दे डोंट हैव टू डू इट फॉर क्लाउड, दे लिटरली हैव टू डू इट इफ दे बिलीव इन अस, if they believe in equality, that is why they have to do it.
Yeah.
Publicity stunt nahi hai. Being queer, being trans is not a moment, it's a movement. People have to understand this.
Ooh,
Yeah,
poet.
And
exactly.
they need
Yeah,
to do it to become better human beings themselves, to
absolutely.
realize that.
Yes,
And
Yes,
it's not
yes,
yes.
optional, right? Like it's
yes.
mandatory by virtue of being a human being that you do this. Yeah, and in fact, like I'm seeing a lot of, so I work in the space of sexual health, right? I see a lot of sex educators talk about anal sex suddenly. And I'm like, okay, firstly, do you think that's the only way queer folks are having sex? So thank you for talking about it. But where is this conversation the rest of the year? You think we are actually in our coffins and only in June all of us are having sex? And doing anal sex.
Imagine if that would happen.
No, oh my God.
Oh God.
So yeah, we need to move beyond tokenism. We need to move beyond rainbow washing, and paint the world a rainbow, right, actually.
Apurva, may I say something?
Yes, of course, Ritushree.
Now, when we are talking about this movement and future of queer movement, I think it's a bit problematic to say, but when we say the movement, queer movement in India, if you see any webinar, seminar, everything, all the movement happening, it is all right a bit diplomatic. People are not, going full throttle
Mm,
about it.
Mm.
Like
yeah, I agree with
without
that.
intersectionality, without taking, people from queer people from small cities, it is just, I agree with Aditya and you, you were talking. It seems like a, South Bombay plosh club of some guys.
Apurupa, we're
You
not
know,
attacking you.
Ouch.
we're not attacking you, but the thing is,
No, I
you
agree.
know,
I fully agree. I feel like I have
you
all the
have to you have to talk. I attended few
Hmm.
seminars where people have asked me not to talk about intersectionality in queer movement or any political thing, like people when I write articles for many platforms.
Yeah.
So they ask me to write only about queer issues, you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
they do not
Sugarcoat it.
find it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they find it odd that queer people, they always want to see queer people like apologetic for everything.
Yes.
Can you guys believe that I tried to write an article some time ago which was about catapulting hate crimes in India, okay, towards LGBTQ people, and barely any publication was interested in putting that out. Can you
Hmm.
believe this? And they all, Pride Month में they all chant slogans कि अरे
Yeah.
हम तो ऐसे, हम तो inclusive हैं, हम तो ये, हम तो वो. But when it comes to real issues, when it comes to real things, they don't want to talk about it. See, they only want to represent queerness or transness only when it's a happy moment. They
Hmm.
don't want to talk about our sorrows, our struggles.
Yep.
They don't want to. Our
Yeah.
fights, they want to completely erase our existence by saying कि नहीं, हम तो सिर्फ happy moment दिखाना चाहते हैं.
With
People
joy.
also have, Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pe-
Yeah.
people have to
But
understand that. Mhm. क्या किसी को I don't know.
yeah, just
Okay,
I'm
should I
adding what.
continue? Mhm.
Just a minute, Aditya. I just what I forget it. Like what Aditya said, I'm just adding to that. People during this, Pride Month, they only show happy and successful story. They never show you photos, articles on queer people who lost their lives. If you remember,
Yes.
all
Hmm.
this started with a riot.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
nobody wants to talk about those problematic thing of, small town queer people who are, who do not have any access, a Dalit queer person on in a small town, a village, they will not talk about it. They will not talk about it. Believe me, I am working with many organizations and they only want happy story. I was discussing with the organization about this, how to go, how to celebrate this Pride Month. And they were like, we only want happy stories.
Hmm. Hmm.
But, it's sad because because our fights बाहर भी हुए हैं हमारा fights, और हमारा fights even within the community भी होता है. So that is the most heartbreaking part of it,
Right.
क्योंकि हम बाहर तो लड़ते ही हैं
Right.
अपने हक के लिए और सब चीजों के लिए. Now we have to start fight it within our people only.
Right.
Because ये चीज मैंने personally भी क्योंकि experience की है, and it is sad because I always tell this to people that that there are people still getting beaten,
Hmm.
molested, and they feel hopeless even when आप celebrate कर रहे हो, but there's somebody who's yet आज भी who's crying, for who they are. Because I think that even after 377 and everything, I think situations somewhere or the other, they've gotten worse in smaller cities, or
Right.
they're perhaps the same, but कई
Right.
जगहों पे it's gotten worse.
Right. Right.
Because see, मैं और मुझे ये चीज किसी ने बोली थी, a friend of mine told me this, and they said कि but what has changed in our lives? Nothing has changed. We are still living the same lives,
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
and now that everything's in our faces, हमें और डर लगने लगा है कि भैया ये हमारी लाइफ तो है नहीं ना. Even if we come out, this is not our life.
Correct. Correct. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Can
These are
so
I
yeah,
yes,
interject?
yes, Aarti, I was just gonna invite you into the conversation, please.
Okay. So, we first, like Aditya and Ritushree and Onir said, we first have the danger of our identity first, like
Mm,
coming out and all of that. So,
yeah.
full disclosure here, I have not come out. I'm turning 40 at the end of this year, and
Mm,
I'm still not come out to my parents, because I think you will know that a lot of South Asian families, when they move to another country, they become a lot more closed up,
mm,
um, and they really feel the need to hold on to their culture and their traditions, and this is just preposterous to them.
mm,
So and especially because I'm married to a cisgender man, so people feel like, oh, it's a cop out, and so they tend not to. They be like, okay, so chalo, you're bisexual, but you're married now, and you're married to a straight man. And I'm
mm,
like, but my bisexuality is not invalidated because I have married a straight man.
mm, mm,
And just yesterday, I had an argument with somebody because I was coming up on a panel last night, and they asked me, do you really need to talk about intersectionality? And I said, absolutely, because pride started as a revolution. It did not start as a celebration.
mm,
So
mm,
I'm not going to take part in just the happy parts of pride. I'm sorry. But, there are things that are going on that we need to talk about. And
mm,
if you don't want me to talk about that, then I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pull out. And I always make it a point to ask organizations, when they include me in a pride campaign or something, I'm always like, okay, so what is your end goal here?
mm,
How are you trying to help
mm,
us?
mm, mm, mm.
What are you providing for the queer community at the end of the day? Is there anything? or
Yeah.
just or just
yeah.
rainbows and confetti and all that shit. So um yeah, I take that very seriously and very personally, and just I absolutely agree with what
Think
everyone
that.
has had to say.
I would also like to add what Aarti said. Aarti, first of all, more power to you,
Thank you.
and big love to you. I also wanted to add up here कि जैसे अभी भी I think some time ago we were talking about coming out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to add a point कि लोग I think it is, and I always say this to younger people also जो मुझसे भी young हैं. I tell them
हाँ.
also that coming out is personal.
Right.
आपके ऊपर होता है आपको कब बताना है, कैसे बताना है, किसको बताना है भी कि नहीं बताना है.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
So there is no pressure, there is absolutely no pressure कि अच्छा, and ये कि प्राइड मंथ है तो मतलब कई लोग a lot of young children have started thinking प्राइड मंथ है तो हम आ जाते हैं, we will also be celebrated. ऐसा
Mm,
नहीं है. It's a personal journey, it's a journey of self discovery, people. So yeah, उसमें कोई pressure नहीं है. So yeah, Aarti, even if you're turning 40, you're fabulous. Just look in the mirror and just say that you are fabulous. So
Thank
yeah.
you. It's still dangerous,
yeah.
because I am
Hmm.
so open about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So the danger of me being outed.
Yeah.
So I constantly need to give disclaimers to publishers and to news organizations to please show me mercy, and don't talk about my queerness. And it
Mm,
really pains me to have to do that,
mm.
but I just, yeah, just not
Yeah.
ready
Yeah,
for
I
that.
know it is difficult, because कई बार क्या होता है ना, people assume कि no, just because you're vocal एक जगह पे तो that means कि आप
Correct.
vocal होगे
Correct.
सब जगह पे.
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
know so
Yeah.
because we live in a world where people assume a lot
Yeah.
instead of actually asking people. So
Yeah.
yeah, because I remember when I had started out, I used to think a lot about this कि क्या होगा, if somebody writes something about me in a way I don't want
Right.
to want that to be written as.
Right.
So yeah, I think it is very important that we need to have this conversation, and I'm glad that Aarti brought this up, that
Yeah.
it is always necessary for even for publications, whether big or small, to ask a queer or a trans individual कि
Correct.
आपको हम कैसे शो करें, क्या आप किस तरीके से कंफर्टेबल हो, instead
Right.
of assuming, right?
Right, right. No, definitely. I really appreciate the intersectional lens that all of you have brought about in this conversation. And it's really important for us to speak about that because, hey, let's say you call yourself, an ally, right? And you call yourself an ally to the community, but you are not someone who is actively anti-caste. You are not someone who is fighting against classist issues. You are not someone who is a feminist. Then you are actually not an ally, because guess what? There are Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi, queer and trans folks. There are women who are queer and trans folks. So, I mean, intersections of identity is very, very important for us to
And there
think
are
about.
also non-binary people, people who,
Oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah.
yes,
There are
yes,
also non-binary people who live their entire lives in a box, and
Exactly.
they're always subjected to, अच्छा ये हुआ या वो हुआ. So they are the ones जो कि लोगों का assumption सबसे ज्यादा face करते हैं, like a sword, you know.
mm,
Every
mm,
second they have to go through it,
yeah,
which is the most difficult part, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
they do not want to cater to one section of the society. They're like, I will decide who I want to be, and I will tell you that. You will not tell me that. So I
yeah.
think that is the most difficult place to be in my opinion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, no, I mean, I think this is such a powerful conversation, not just because we spoke about what the world can look like, right? And what the world is like, what are our experiences like, but we're also like being very reflexive in this conversation and saying, okay, I have these privileges. How do they actually feed into me being more vocal, or me being open in certain spaces, or me having access to certain spaces in certain language? So I really, really enjoyed this conversation, and it's given me a lot to think about as well. And I think I would want to actually, if you had any parting thoughts, all of you, if you had one sort of maybe tip to give to our audiences, whether they're queer or trans, or whether they're an ally, what is one thing that they can reflect about immediately after this session? Can we start with you, Ritushree?
Yeah. Um, First of all, I would say if you are a queer person, then be vocal about your right. Claim every inch of the society. It's your world. Just claim it. No one has the right to say what to do, what not to do, and don't be apologetic for anything. If someone is favoring you, they are not if someone is supporting you, they are not doing any favor. It's your right. And secondly, I would say to the allies that, accept, don't, don't say this word, I accept you. Because when you never use this word acceptance for heterosexual people. You never said that I have a heterosexual son and I have accepted him. You never say I have a heterosexual friend, a cisgender heterosexual friend, and I have accepted him. You don't say that. So don't say this. Secondly, don't use queer persons as Google. Your genuine queries can be answered, but for everything there is Google, and use that. It's free. It's a very good website. You enjoy it. And yeah, and another thing I would want to say, I have been to some places, internet talk and discussions and seminar. I wanted to say every time, but I always forget. So this time I would not. Uh, I would want to say to people that please stop asking for blessings from trans women. I receive a lot of messages in my DM saying bless us. No, I cannot bless me. I'm searching for a job for last 1 year. I'm not getting a perfect job for me. How can I bless you? So no, stop doing that. That's it.
Yeah. Yes, stop fetishizing us. We don't need to be put on a pedestal, like Aditya said. Treat us like human beings, like you would anybody else. Yeah. So, Aditya, did you have any final parting thoughts for our audience?
Yeah. Am I audible enough?
Yes, yes, you are. Did we lose you? Okay, I think we lost you, Aditya. Aarti, would you like to go?
Okay. Um, I think so much of what Ritushri said, I really echoes, in my mind and my heart. Google is your best friend. I'd also like to say that, marginalized perspectives, they very often they go unheard. And when they do speak, it's like there is a caveat. they get thrown into these tropes of like angry, marginalized people. So, and that's just to sidetrack on what they're actually talking about. The transgender community, the non binary community, they are the most persecuted, and yet they are the most underrepresented or misrepresented. So, I'd like us to think about that, and I'd like us to think about, um, creating safer spaces for ourselves, in person and online as well. And you don't owe anyone your identity. If anybody chooses to misunderstand who you are, it's not a you problem, it's a them problem. Please remember that. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Aditya,
Okay,
are you
so
back?
I wanted to say
Whoop.
that it's so good to be here today
Sorry, Aditya,
with
you're breaking
you.
up.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better, much better. Why don't you share
Okay, okay.
your final thoughts?
Yeah. So I was saying that I'm very grateful to be here today and to meet all of you. And my love to all of you and to everybody listening to this conversation. I want to tell you that um, always believe in yourself and yeah, don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya. Since I'm also, bi, and I've also been a part of this panel, I will also give a message. I insist. Uh, don't get overwhelmed by all the terms that you hear. If you mess up, it's okay. Apologize. Do better next time. You don't need to memorize all terms and understand the intricacies of each person's identity in order to respect the humanity in them. And like Aarti very rightly brought up at the beginning of our discussion, you don't have to understand somebody. Like just because someone says that these are my pronouns, you don't have to understand what they mean to respect it. Yeah. So essentially, you don't have to worry as much about what kinds of genitals a person has, what kinds of sex they're having, who they are in love with, etc. In order for you to respect them as a human being. I think Onir dropped off. So, on this very amazing note, if I do say so myself,
Hello,
yes,
can
Aditya.
you hear me? I know I said it's great.
Aditya, you're breaking up again. Sorry. I don't know whatever
Yeah,
magic you did last time worked.
I think maybe the internet is playing tricks for me. Am I audible now?
Better, yes.
Okay, so are we wrapping this session or are we
Yeah, yeah.
continuing with
We're,
this?
we're, we're wrapping the session up. We're already like about half an hour past our allotted time. So I really, really appreciate our audience who've stayed with us since the beginning of the session. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.